Welcome everybody, this is How to English, Teach and Learn with Gav and Em.
It's a podcast about teaching and learning English as a foreign language.
All opinions stated are personal and references will be given when necessary.
How many times have we done that?
Why did you not ask this question before we started recording? And I could have looked.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot.
It's hundreds of times.
It's like we're just doing it without thinking.
What are we doing, Em?
I always say what we're doing, Gav. What are we doing, Gav?
We are presenting Gav and Em's How to English TEFL pod. It's a podcast for teachers and learners who want to learn all about the world of EFL, TEFL, and learning languages, etc. You and I, Em, are teachers, TEFL teachers, and we are going to spill the beans on the EFL world.
We've been EFL teachers for a very long time, so we know a thing or two about the job.
And now, for Season 6, we have decided to do the A to Z of TEFLing. And this week, M is letter D.
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 D for Doughnuts.
Dedication, determination, diligence, discipline, devotion, drive, dependability, decision, dexterity, diplomacy, depth. Possibly all of these Ds are necessary in order for you to succeed in the TEFL world, both teachers and learners.
But coming back to donuts, have you ever had donuts in a class? Did your students ever bring donuts, Gav?
I think they have brought cakes. I don't know specifically whether there were donuts involved. There's always donuts involved, Em. And possibly some coffee, K-O dash...
Wait, are you doing that already?
Is it too early?
It's a bit early.
Don't interrupt me. ko-fi.com/how to English pod if you want to send us some refreshments with our donuts.
We can dunk our donuts in our coffee. D for dunk. But yeah, I like it. It's a nice little perk of the job. Sometimes the students bring the donuts. Sometimes you go to a company and there's donuts in the kitchen. And I say, if you're in that room, you're an employee. If you're teaching English in that company, you're as good as an employee. So help yourself. Or maybe just wait till the students come and say, would you like a donut? But it is a nice thing when you get all these sweet treats. And sometimes students bring homemade things that they want you to try, or that they've made and they think maybe our teacher would like that.
I feel a little bit nervous about that latter point where the students bring in some of their homemade delicacies, Em.
Why?
Because you don't know what's in it. You don't know whether they washed their hands before they prepared them.
Okay, Gav.
Especially if they're 4-year-olds, you want to be really careful.
Yeah, if you're teaching kids, I guess, just have a quick look first. See if it's fallen on the floor, covered in hair. But generally, it's a lovely thing. Sorry, coming back to your very academic and long words, what were they? Do you want to pick one?
Long words.
They were very long.
We'll come back to them later, Em. Don't worry, but there are lots of Ds that we need to consider when we are teaching and learning English. But I'd like to jump to my first D word or expression to discuss with you today, the do's or don'ts of English learning.
Uh-huh.
Common mistakes and how to avoid them, Em. What springs to mind? Do
your homework.
Don't
Think it's going to happen overnight.
It
Won't.
What's it, Em? What's not going to happen overnight?
Levelling up. I think you can't go from A1 to A2 overnight. It's going to take time.
That is very true.
Have realistic goals.
Expectations.
Put the work in.
I like all of these.
Don't think that you're going to just get progress from 1 hour a week. What else?
I'm going to put a little twist into this activity. I've got some true or false statements.
From who?
From the world.
Just facts. Is that what you mean?
And you need to tell me whether you should do them or you shouldn't do them, depending on how you want to achieve your goals in learning.
Okay, it sounds complicated, but try me.
Let me try you with the first statement. Do speak as much as possible.
Definitely. I agree. That is a good tip.
And should we say which language we would like our students to talk?
Well, yeah, the one you're teaching them, which is English, which is what we're all here for.
Try not to speak too much of your own language.
Don't translate everything. The goal is to speak fluently without translating in your head first.
On that topic, do think in your own language.
Well, that's a lot to ask. I think you can't be sure. You won't know as a teacher what the student's thinking, but if you hear them say, oh, what's that word in my language, then I think you have to try and think of strategies to wean them off of that technique. So instead of that, explain the word in English rather than think what it is in their language and then translate that to English. Just go around about ways to do it.
So maybe students don't think in your language, but do try to think in English.
Yeah.
Tell me, Em, is this a do or don't statement? Focus on accuracy first, then fluency.
That's a tricky one. I think
Em, it's not tricky. I have to interrupt. Don't focus on accuracy. Just get in there, get in the classroom, get those conversations going. Just use what you have. Accuracy will come later as your teacher guides you.
Yeah. Okay, in an ideal world, as we often say, but depends how the students have been taught already. If they've already got that kind of idea and the accuracy is there, you can't undo it, can you? If you've got students who have come to you with a lot of accuracy but no fluency, then you just have to activate their fluency. They've already got the accuracy. So if you're teaching beginners, I agree, let's all just use it and have fun with it and experiment with it. But I have a lot of students that are very accurate and they can write really well and they can understand everything they read and their listening's pretty good. But when it comes to speaking fluently, it's very hard for them. So I would say yes with caveats, Gav, to that.
I can see your caveats and they are very useful. Do or don't use English every day.
I think every day is a good idea. Do that. You should use it every day.
I think you should use it every day, if possible, if you've got that opportunity. Do or don't be afraid of making mistakes.
Don't be afraid of making mistakes. That's an opportunity to learn.
Do or don't ignore pronunciation.
Don't ignore pronunciation. It's very important. Very important. Important. As I said that, I thought, not impotent. See what I mean?
Oh, you changed the pronunciation and you gave me a completely different word, which confused me. I had lost track of what we were talking about completely.
Yeah, that's why it's important.
And finally, do or don't expand your vocabulary naturally.
Do expand your vocabulary naturally, if possible, at all times, which I guess just means reading things, listening to things you enjoy, and learning as you go along, not just giving yourself this mammoth task of memorising a word list.
Absolutely. Learn words in context. Don't just memorise everything. Practice using new words in sentences to remember them better.
Good tip. Personalise. In context. Even better. So, Gav, your letter D for do's and don'ts. I'd like to just focus on the one word, which is don't. The word don't.
You can't use my word. That was my word. You have to come up with your own word.
It's my word, but in a different situation. So do you use the word don't with your students? Do you say to them, don't say that? Say it like this.
I don't think I say don't.
What do you say?
I say, I think this word's better. Or instead I just shout the word. And I think when they hear me shouting, they know they just need to repeat what I'm saying.
Okay, that's an interesting technique. You just shout out them words.
If they say, this is very impotent, I shout, important. And they say, important.
So you don't say important. Impotent. Say important. Okay. That's a good technique. But I liked what you said at the beginning. It's better to say, or it's more common to say.
I say.
Yes.
I say it this way.
Or it's said like. Use passive if you prefer. Yeah, I agree. I don't say that word don't because it's an order, isn't it? I think it sounds a bit bossy.
I agree. I might ask the question, did you say impotent or important? And you know what my students say?
Impotent.
They say, Teacher Gav, it's always the second word you say.
They've twigged.
They have. That's why I tried to mix it up and not always have the correct answer as the second thing I say.
And in your face as well, like smiling. Is it important or is it impotent with a frown?
I've got a real frown when I'm saying those incorrect words.
Okay, that's another technique. I think our language is quite important too as teachers. I don't like to give orders and say this isn't possible or never do that. I think it sounds a bit dramatic.
I try to model the language that I hope my students might like to use.
That's good too, Gav. Yeah.
Is that what you do, Em?
I guess, I hope, yeah.
So just don't say don't, say do?
Don't say don't. I think you're saying never say never. You can say it to me, I suppose. That's okay. You can say it to our followers, but not your students. Double standards, Gav. Don't say don't. Try not to say don't. Better if you don't say don't.
Thanks, Em.
Gav, what's your next D word?
Em, my next word is defining, and I'm going to use it in quite a loose way.
Go on.
I have been exploring the fascinating world of origins of some English words.
How's that connect to D, Gav?
Well, it's through definition that we may hope to understand the world, Em.
Oh, yeah, it's another tenuous link from Gav.
Let's begin with this very interesting word that we might come across every day of the week, but have we ever really defined it so we've really understood what it means to us, Em, and what it may mean in a greater sense?
And the word is?
Nightmare.
Nightmare. Ooh.
Have you ever thought about nightmare?
I guess it's something about a horse.
It isn't about horses.
Isn't
it's
it?
not about female horses. Isn't that strange?
I imagined it was. I imagine a black, ethereal horse galloping through my subconscious in the night, waking me up. No.
Dragging you along for the ride.
What is a nightmare?
A mare is an old English word for an evil spirit.
Is it? So it's like a night ghost or a night spirit?
It used to sit on our chests, Em.
Oh, I've seen a painting of that. There's a really good one of some kind of monster, imp, demon type thing sitting on a woman's chest and she's asleep.
That's going to give you some nightmares, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Can you believe that? That's just such a common word, and I've never thought about the origins of that.
No.
It's nice to define, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I'm not sure this fits the word define, but yes, it is.
Quarantine.
Quarantine. It sounds French.
Italian.
Italian, really. Quarantine. Is it from a region or a place or something with four?
40.
40.
Oh, you were really getting close to it, Em. Quarantine.
40. So 40 days was the time needed to be clear of plague or something?
You are very, very good at this activity right now because we are defining words.
We are, Gav. Okay, let's play that game.
From the Italian, 40 giorni, apologies to anybody who may understand Italian, meaning 40 days. So during the Black Death, ships, yes, ships had to wait 40 days in the docks before entering the city to prevent the spread of disease.
That's amazing. And I did say plague. I didn't realise it actually was.
That's absolutely right.
This is fun.
How about the word clue?
Clue. C-L-U-E. Clue.
Yes.
Like, give us a clue. I have no clue.
You are going to love this definition, this explanation, the origin of this.
It's not definition. No matter how you swing it, it's not a definition. But anyway, I'm going to love the origin. Should have waited for O, Gav.
I know, I couldn't wait. I was too excited to tell you all these things. Originally spelt C-L-E-W.
Ah, clue.
Meaning a ball of yarn.
Oh, so it unravels and things become
Where did we
clearer?
need to unravel our ball of yarn in ancient times? Maybe we were Greek and we were a bit frightened of animals with horns.
Excuse me?
And humans kind of combined into really scary nightmare type things.
Talk about mythological animals, so you're in labyrinth.
A labyrinth, and what was in that labyrinth?
Oh, a minotaur in the middle.
And you were holding a clue in your hand?
Oh, so you could remember where you came from.
That's nice, isn't it?
Lovely.
Clue comes from the Greek mythology. Theseus used a clue to navigate the Minotaur's labyrinth.
Cool. I want more.
M. Salary.
Oh, I know this one.
Do ya?
Roman for salt.
Wow.
Because they were paid in salt, because salt was really, really amazing and they needed it to live and not many people could afford it.
It was very valuable at the time, so they got salary, which is from the Latin word salarium. Again, apologies.
Is it salarium? I thought it was sal, just sal, like
Well,
salt.
salarium, probably that was a bad pronunciation.
Or maybe it's a word that's like of salt, like the origin comes from salt.
Let me give you a couple more. Berserk.
Is this military? Something to do with a military skirmish or a type of fighting that involves random firing of weapons everywhere that causes a lot of damage?
Well, originally from the Viking warriors called berserkers, as you
Uh-huh.
probably know, who fought in a trance-like fury.
Okay, no, I was going completely the wrong way on that. So it was people, not the style of fighting.
But I think these days we could say somebody went berserk. They might throw their arms out in a kind of frenzy.
Now I'm thinking it sounds offensive, but okay.
Now imagine your Viking warriors, Em. What are they wearing on their backs?
Rucksacks?
No.
Angel wings?
No, it's something a bit more natural to keep you warm. In those days, they didn't have shops.
Furs?
Yes. Made from which animal?
Bison? No. Woolly mammoth? No, I'm not sure about the timeline here.
Just keep giving me the animals.
Wolf?
No, a bit bigger.
A bear? A bear.
Bear. Bear. Skins. Berserker. Berserk. That's where the names came from.
No way. Really? Okay, that's cool.
I believe it to be true.
In English, berserker.
Well, I think we share a lot of similar words with Northern European countries.
So maybe that's where our word comes from for bear. All right, yeah.
I'll do one more, but you have to decide. Would you like to hear about flummox, discombobulated,
Oh,
cattywampus,
what?
lollygag, bumfuzzle, or widdershins?
How would anyone be able to choose, Gav, between all those words? They're fabulous. I only know the first two. I've never heard of... What? Fuzzwomple? I'm going to go with discombobulate because I actually know what that means. That's like I'm all confused and I don't know what's going on. And it came up in the last episode, so that would be a nice link. And it begins with D.
Well, then it's perfect. Let me begin. The word discombobulated is an American English invention from the 19th century, likely created as a playful or humorous alteration of longer Latin-based words like discompose or discomfort, first recorded around the early 19th century in the US, first used in an 1834 issue of the New York Sun.
Well, that's not as fun as the other words. I thought there was going to be a really fun story behind that.
I think some American just made up the word and thought, well, that'll sound cool, and it will catch on.
And I guess we could be combobulated if we can be discombobulated.
Meaning...
To be focused and together and totally aware of what's going on.
and not at all confused as I am right now.
But we never say it, so who knows the story of that word. Moving on, Gav. I've got kind of two, I suppose. I'm going to ask you if you know what a dictogloss is, and then we're going to demo it. So there's two Ds there, dictogloss and demo.
Goodness me, Em.
D for demo, meaning?
Demonstration.
Okay, so that's an easy one. But what's dictogloss? Do you not remember your CELTA days?
I think I remember, Em. I think Dictogloss is a dictation glossary.
Which means what? What would you do in a dictogloss activity?
I think somebody reads something and I have to write it down.
Yes, that's right. So usually the teacher or one student, but usually the teacher reads a text. The students make notes on that text. and then they need to, as a group or in pairs, reformulate the original dictation. So they have to try in their own way to create the text. Doesn't have to be word for word, but it has to make sense. The ideas are the most important thing.
I thought it had to be word for word.
No, I think you're thinking of other activities. But Dictogloss has to just be more or less the same story, written in a grammatically correct way. You can switch up some of the vocabulary as long as it's got the same meaning. And then you compare it with the original, so that then you can see maybe where you were different, or if there's any errors, the teacher can correct the errors.
So it's a real text written down, and then that will be read by someone, and somebody else needs to make notes, but it doesn't have to be perfect, but express the same meaning.
That's it.
Em, before we can do this activity, we need a text.
We do, Gav.
And you know what?
What?
I happen to have a text that I recently wrote,
That's perfect.
which is all about myself and is a very interesting and fun story.
Well, I thought you'd come prepared, so I'm going to do the hard work. I'm going to make the notes, and then I'm going to try to reformulate your story. When you're ready, read it out.
Have you got a pen and paper?
I have.
Should the followers also have a pen and paper ready, Em?
That's a great idea. Followers, if you listen to the story Gav's going to tell us, and then pause our podcast, write down your version of the text after you've made the notes, and let's see how close you were. Make sure you write as many notes as you can without losing track of the story.
Should I speak clearly or should I mumble?
I think you should speak at your normal speed as clearly as you can, yeah.
The story I'm going to read is about me joining the gym,
Great.
and it's titled Lost in the Gym Jungle. I'll begin. After months of debating whether to join a gym, I finally caved. I signed up online, downloaded the app, and felt an odd sense of accomplishment before even stepping foot inside. The app was sleek, fancy graphics, QR code for easy check-in, and a map of all the gym locations. Foolproof, right? The next day, armed with my phone and an overinflated sense of readiness, I set off. The gym I picked was just 15 minutes away, and I arrived feeling like a fitness pro already. I strutted up to the entrance, pulled out my phone, and confidently held up my QR code to the scanner. Nothing happened. I tried again. The scanner blinked red. A mild panic set in as people behind me started shifting impatiently. Excuse me, I mumbled to the receptionist, holding up my phone like it contained the meaning of life. My QR code isn't working. He glanced at my screen and then at me with a knowing smile. You're at the wrong gym.
That was a really funny story. Is that true?
It is true.
Wow.
Finally, I arrived, so don't worry. I did find the gym in the end.
There was a lot of vocabulary in there, Gav, a lot of long words, and I was scribbling down as fast as I could, but it was quite hard text, so I probably would need you to read it one more time.
Well, you are a high-level English communicator, and so I did make it a little bit more difficult for you than I would for, say, my B1 or certainly A2 students. It would be super simple.
Yeah, but I think you could get a lot from it. I've written a few things down. I'm going to fast forward to our part at the end where the students have spent some time, maybe 15 or 20 minutes, to construct the text together or in pairs. And now I'm going to read to you the text that I've written, okay?
So it's not going to come from your mind, from your memory, but it will come from the text, the words you've written on your bit of paper.
Yeah, we've collaborated as a group and we've all written together what we think the text was. And your story was called Lost in the Gym Jungle, I think. I was going to say Jungle Gym, but I think that's different. I'm going to read it as you read it from first person. I debated for a very long time joining the gym, and I finally caved in and joined. I signed up, downloaded the app. The app was sleek. It had great graphics and a QR code function. Also, a map of all the gym facilities. I thought it was foolproof. So, with an overinflated readiness, I left to go to the gym. It was only 15 minutes away, and I felt like a pro already. I arrived at the gym, and I got my phone out, and I scanned the QR code on the scanner, but it blinked red, and I thought, oh no, and a queue was forming behind me of all the people trying to get into the gym. Desperately, I asked the receptionist, showing him my phone as if it was the meaning of life, and said, "What's wrong? Why can't I get in?" And he said, "You're at the wrong gym."
Dum, dum, dum.
Now, how was that, Gav? How did that compare to your story?
That was very similar to my story. There were a few details that were missing.
Were there any big things missing? Tell me what I missed.
Details such as I signed up online.
Ah, yes, I missed that.
But you did catch that the app was sleek and it was very fancy. Lots of nice graphics with the QR code.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that I left the next day armed with my phone. I think you didn't mention.
No, I didn't.
I guess that's assumed. Who goes anywhere without a phone these days?
No, I didn't write it down, though, so that was missing, definitely.
And when I arrived at the gym, I felt like a fitness pro.
Ah, I think I said a pro, didn't I?
Did you mention how I walked into the building?
No.
I strutted.
No, I didn't write that down.
So that's an extra detail showing you the confidence that I had as I went into the gym. I read that a mild panic set in as people behind me started shifting impatiently.
Okay, that was very different. I wrote down a queue was forming. So I got the idea right, yeah, but not exactly the same words.
I like that you pictured a queue where I only mentioned that there were people behind me.
But that would be a good point to make to students, that that isn't the same meaning, actually. That is a different situation. So where I assumed something is not actually accurate.
Perhaps you were thinking about yourself in that situation and you just imagine there's 20 people behind you huffing and puffing, looking at their phones and thinking, what's wrong with this person?
But it's a really good activity for synonyms and vocabulary words, and they're not wrong if they're the right meaning, but maybe you need to get into the details of why it's a queue or it's just people behind, not in an orderly line. These are the really important things that need to be stressed.
It could have been a group just congregating in the entrance area, and you don't need to feel stressed compared to if there's a bunch of people trying to push past you to get in.
Exactly, Gav. And of course, if there were grammar errors in there or I'd used the wrong tense, then you would need to correct that as a teacher. But it's a great task, really collaborative.
Your tenses were solid, Em.
Thanks for that. And I think it's great for students. It's a great skill. I only wrote down a few words, and even if I missed all the sentence, I could put the words together to make a sentence. It may not have been exactly what you said, but it was more or less. And at the end of it, you get a nice text.
Yeah, a slight alternative on the one that your teacher read to you.
And it's great if you've got a big group, because then you might have 3 or 4 or 5 different texts and they're all very similar but with differences, and you can compare them and see what's different about them.
You might have some different vocabulary, you might have some different grammar, but hopefully they all express the same story. My next D word for this episode is direction. Do you give direction to your students? How do you direct them? How do you keep them on course, on the tracks, going the right way when they might get a bit distracted or totally fluff it up? Are you the train driver? Are you ushering them into the hall of learning? What is it for you? What's direction, Em?
Well, I hope it's always moving forward, Gav, not backwards. So I think motivation is crucial.
Motivation does not begin with D,
no,
but continue, please.
But that's the way they get the direction, I hope. The moving forward, which I've already stated, I think is the right direction to go in, moving forward. That means, as a teacher or a trainer or a coach, you need to motivate. And to do that, that means positive attitude as a teacher. You have to generate that feeling, that mood, that need for English, that your students will come to the lessons, that they will show up, that they will want to learn, and that they're going to leave feeling that they've done a good job and that they've achieved something and they're in a good mood. All of that, I'm not going to go into how exactly.
Is achieved by the teacher.
It's a mix.
Is it you directing them, Em? Are you orchestrating this class of learners?
I think you do, as a teacher, dictate the mood. I think you have to.
D for dictate.
Yes. I think you have to make that atmosphere, at least to begin with. Once the students have had time together, then I hope they come already with that feeling. But we've all had groups that just don't mesh, or that the first lesson's very awkward, and you have to find a way to get everybody working together. You have to do collaborative tasks like the Dictogloss thing. That's great to get people feeling like they're a team. I think you need to have some activities that really generate that feeling of togetherness. And once that's there should be a more flowing state, let's say.
Let's say you do have a little tension. Do you pull out your Swiss Army knife of team building activities like the Dictogloss? Have you got something else in mind that you could share with us now?
Yes, Gav, I have got a bag of tricks, definitely, that are called bonding tasks. No, not really. But I've got a folder full of collaborative tasks, pair work things, group work things, and definitely in the first lesson I always have a interactive activity that requires students to talk to each other, not just me. So it could be like a question generation activity where they've got a word at the beginning or a couple of words like how long ... and the students have to think of a question like how long have you been learning English, and they ask another student that question, and then another student has the word recently at the end of the sentence with a question mark, and they might need to say something like, have you been to the cinema recently? And as long as the question's good, it could be any topic, or if you want, you could make it work related. And they're just asking each other questions, and you can then expand on that and ask them to ask a follow-up question if they can do that, if it's not too much stress for them. But that usually does the job.
It sounds like redirection, Em. So you're moving the centre of attention away from the teacher and onto the students so they are focusing on each other. And instead of that traditional model of talk to the teacher, answer the teacher's question, you're getting them to talk to each other.
That's another way of thinking of it, redirection of attention. I was thinking as well as direction of where you're going in progress. But yes, they're all relevant. And I think it's really important to do that on the first lesson so that they're really familiar and they expect to talk to each other, not just me. Gav, I guess it's tips time.
Tips of the week. And while you think about what your tip is for our teacher and learner followers, I would like to ask you if you can remember all of those words that I read at the beginning of the episode. Followers, can you? I'll give you a clue. They all begin with D.
Do they?
That's not one of them.
Thought they were all different words from different countries.
No, the very beginning of the
What was the
episode,
very
Em.
Oh,
I gave you a long list of D
Yeah.
words, and I thought, why don't I just get Em to remember these for the tip of the week at the end of the show, because they're all really, really useful.
I was just thinking about donuts, Gav. I remember donuts. What were they? Development?
That was the one that I didn't have.
Really? No.
Commitment to hard work towards a goal.
Dedication.
Very good. If you're strong-willed to achieve something.
Determination.
Wow. Consistent hard work and attention to detail.
Dedication. No, I've said that already. Diligence.
Diligence is correct. Imagine the little schoolchild working hours and hours on end in their notebooks. Then that is when diligence comes to mind. You might also need self-control.
Discipline. You don't even have to finish. Discipline.
Discipline is correct. A deep love or commitment for
Devotion.
Em, you're not even going to let me finish these sentences,
No,
are you?
you don't need to. It's so good. Your definitions are great.
Maybe the followers would like to hear what I've got to say, Em.
I'll let you finish.
Deep love or commitment to the English language.
Devotion.
Motivation and ambition to succeed is, and you might do it if you have a car,
Driving. Drive.
Drive, Em. Very good. Of course, you need to be reliable and trustworthy.
Nope, don't know.
You need your teacher to arrive to the class on time. You know they're going to be there.
Dependable.
Very good. Of course, you need to make some choices.
Decisions.
Very good. You might need skill with your hands and with your mind in order to understand the complexities of the English language.
Dexterity.
Good. And you need to be quite tactful in your handling of situations.
Diplomatic.
Very good. And finally, have a profound understanding and insight into grammar, vocabulary, and everything else. It's the noun for deep.
Depth.
Very good. A depth of knowledge. Thank you, Em, for helping me share those tips on teaching and learning with the followers.
That was a bumper crop of tips for D. Should I add any to that?
I think you have to.
Okay.
You made a pinky promise at the beginning of the season.
I did. Well, I'm going to just say the word difficulty. And as a tip, think about the difficulty for teachers. Presenting exercises, work, tasks to our students. It's not enough just to think that's a great activity. I think you've really got to consider, is it difficult enough? Is it a challenge? Because I've maybe got into a bit of a habit of using a one-size-fits-all for my classes, and it's not good because sometimes it's too easy, sometimes it's too difficult, and I think you have to tailor things, or you have to upgrade the language, or maybe change the grammar a little bit, add something to make it more difficult, take something away to make it easier. So always consider this.
I think I might be slightly guilty of this, Em, because I do like a one-size-fits-all activity where I just say to my students, well, give me something a bit more complex with your answers because you're quite high level.
Exactly. And we almost got through an entire episode without mentioning AI, but we can use AI to make activities more challenging.
Em, how do you do that?
You taught me how to do this, Gav, so maybe you should say.
Take your worksheet, drop it in AI, ask it to upgrade the language or make something a bit more D for difficult, and then pop. Out comes
a magical worksheet that is the perfect level for your students. And you can actually say, please make this C1 or advanced level for English. And you don't even have to do it. It's all there.
On the topic of donuts.
Yeah. Oh, I'm off now. I'm going to make a donut lesson. Why are you looking at me like that?
Were there any Ds that you didn't cover in today's show?
Actually, Gav, yeah, there were a couple. We didn't cover dialogues, role play, I suppose, which is always good. Drilling for pronunciation, which is very important. Delayed feedback. Don't just interrupt your students all the time. Wait sometimes till the end and then tell them what they did wrong. Development would have been quite a big topic to discuss, but I think it's important too, what your students want, how they're developing, how you monitor that development as a teacher. Diction, Gav, but I think you did talk about pronunciation at one point. Were there any other words you had?
I have nothing else to add. Thank you for asking, though.
Great.
Thanks for sharing some time with me. Thank you to the followers for coming back. We hope you enjoyed the show. And,
we are D for done.
D for done and D for delightful. Catch you next time.
Bye, Gav.